All right, everybody, we are back. I'm so excited because, as you all had obviously experienced last week, we had Sierra on the podcast and they knocked that out of the park. I'm so pumped that you all got to hear all of that. And this week, we are with Kayli. It's like
Hi.
the round of applause there.
Hello.
Yes, I'm so excited. You all have heard a little bit about our friendships, and now it's just cool that we get to kind of sit down and learn some more things, talk about some new things.
Yeah.
Kaylee's a little stressed because it's her first podcast, and I meant to move all these other things off, but we do have our L8, so we're gonna give a little cheers to that. But today, I'm very pumped because as you all know, we're kind of starting a series and we're rolling out different things that are happening. So we've got relationships, friendships, marriage, all that stuff. And Kaylee and Jake have one of the best Christian marriage testimonies I have ever heard, actually. And it gives so much hope to everyone. So I literally was like, you definitely have to get on the podcast and share about it because I don't know anyone else that has the type of story you guys have. So I'm super excited for you all to just hear her story, hear their stories, and have the chance to really dig deep into some of the stuff they're sharing. And I just pray that it blesses you and your relationships and your marriages. So we'll start from the beginning, Kay. Tell us a little bit about you and Jake and how you met. Also, I'm in this origin story, so I'm excited.
Yes, you are in the origin story. And I agree that I don't know anyone else that's had a story that's quite like ours. It's very unique and special. So, Jake and I got together in 2015, right after we graduated high school. And a funny side note is that we hated each other all through high school. Literally, we worked together at McDonald's and we hated each other.
I remember the whole, like, our freshman year, Jake and I were such good friends, and he's like, let me get with Kaylee. I was like, okay, let's do it. So I got them together, and they broke up like a month later because they hated each other. Like,
It's very
well,
true.
more of Kaylee hated Jake, but
Jake was just like that guy. Like he was the popular guy in school, and it just wasn't my vibe at the time. And it wasn't my vibe all through high school either. So we got together right after we graduated, and both of us had pretty rough relationships in high school. So neither of us knew really how to be good at being a boyfriend and girlfriend. And I think it's hard whenever you've been in like many marriages. So coming out of that, coming out of long-term relationships, both of us, and we just started talking and dating, and Kayla tricked me into coming to play hide and seek in the dark at one of the places in our county. And I didn't know that Jake was going to be there, but everyone else knew that it was a trap for me to come. And here I was with purple hair dye in my hair, had just dyed my hair purple to celebrate graduating. And I'm racing down to get there because my mom told me I could only stay till midnight.
that curfew.
And it was like 11. So I get down there, everyone teams up. I'm like, okay, I don't have anyone to team up with. The only person left is Jake. And I'm like, I'm not going anywhere alone in the dark with him. And Kayla's like, oh, it's okay. You can come with me, and her boyfriend at the time. And I was like, okay, I'm not happy about this, but it's fine. And somewhere along that 30 minutes that we were together, we climbed into an air conditioning unit with a big fence. And on our way out, I fell getting out of it. And Jake caught me. And I'm looking at him and he's looking at me, and I'm like, don't ever touch me again. Let me go. And I guess the rest is history. We started talking shortly after that, and then we started dating. We moved to Somerset together right after school whenever I started college and he started working. We dated for like, I'm not going to do the math, but from the end of high school to the following year, I think in like January, we got engaged in 2016.
Which is crazy because so Kaylee and I played soccer, like she played soccer with me on the team. And so you all know that whole story of my testimony of breaking my collarbone, all the things. And so that leading to going to college and playing, was crazy because you literally were going to be my roommate. Like we did the tour together. Her mom was like taking us to all the things, figuring out everything for us.
Mm.
And it's like, okay, we're going to do this thing. And then she started dating Jake. And I don't even know what happened. It definitely wasn't because of Jake, but like they stayed. So she was in school in a different school. And then you and Jake started really getting together. So I feel like it was oh, put them all together during summer and then peace, see you guys later, and then they're getting married. I was like, what has
Literally.
happened? And I was in school full time,
Hmm.
soccer, like busy as heck, and then I get this little text of like, you want to come to the wedding? I was like, what is
A
happening?
wedding?
Jake and Kay, okay, let's go.
Yeah, it
And
is
so I was
crazy.
so removed after that point. To make the point, I was super removed at that point.
Hmm.
And so that timeline of 2015, we have high school, and then we graduate, and then you all start hanging out. Summer of, was it 15 or 6? 15 or 6?
15, yeah.
15. And then you got engaged 16.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about what that engagement season was like.
It was quick and crazy, I guess. Like, we got engaged, I think it was like January, February. It was cold. I don't remember the month, but it was early in 2016. And we were living in a town outside of our hometown at that point. He was working second shift. I was going to beauty school and with Morgan.
Which is
And
crazy.
yeah. And working at JCPenney. So we didn't see each other very much during that time. We were on opposite shifts. But I think it was like 9 months or something because we ended up getting married 2016 in October.
Mm-hmm.
And right before our wedding, I was just like, we're canceling this wedding. We're
She
not
was
having it.
tapping out before the wedding. Canceled the whole thing. Literally canceled the entire wedding.
I did cancel the whole wedding because I was like, I can't plan this wedding. This is stressful. I don't want to have a big wedding. I don't even know about this. And so I just quit it all. And then we got married because I think it was supposed to be like maybe December. We were still planning whenever I canceled. I canceled it. And we got married 2 weeks later in Jake's parents' field, and his grandpa married us. So it was very small. It was literally just our parents and immediate family.
Like she didn't even have a white dress, y'all. Like it was deep. It was crazy.
It's true. It was
She
very...
genuinely was not about to have this wedding.
No, we didn't spend a dime on it, literally. But it's okay. It was good.
What, like the
And
$15 for the certificate of marriage?
yeah,
That was the dime.
that's all we paid for. It was small, but it was nice and wasn't anything crazy. But here we are now. I mean, 9 years later. And
Crazy.
yeah.
So I mean, we have engagement. You are like, I'm backing out of this marriage, bro. Sorry. And then you hop on into like, okay, we're doing the thing. We're getting married. So tell us about like that first year of marriage, what that looked like.
We were praying to have a baby pretty quickly. Jake knew that he wanted a family early on. And I was like, okay, I wasn't against it. So we tried to have a baby. It took us, I think, like 3 months or so to get pregnant. And I remember my cousin Shy, she got pregnant right when we were trying. And I was like, you're so fertile. Like, I want to have a baby. And I just remember praying, like, Lord, please let me have a
Lost
baby.
my fertility.
Yes.
3 months in.
Look, right. Like, some people try a lot longer than that, but I was being
But the
dramatic.
anxiety, yeah,
Yes.
that's so real when you start trying.
So right after that, we found out we were pregnant. So Shy and I have boys 1 month apart, which was really cool. We found out we were pregnant. And it was around that time that like things got crazy. Not so much anything external, but a lot was going on with Jake internally. As soon as we got pregnant, he found out, whenever we found out we were pregnant, like a wall broke in his mind.
Yeah.
And he just kind of went back to a lot of his childhood trauma that he had definitely blocked out. I didn't even know about it. And I guess just the stress of us raising a child really unlocked those. And so he was slowly turning into like a shell of a person. So that was really hard. Our first year of marriage.
Yeah.
We're already kids trying to figure out how to manage adulting and be
Literally.
pregnant.
Because how old were you all at that time? Like 19, 20?
Yeah, I was 19 and Jake was 20.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's so crazy to think about, especially, and for all the ladies listening that have been pregnant and have had a baby, being pregnant in itself is a roller coaster. And that's the time when you want to feel closest to your spouse. And so going into the marriage having doubts and then having a child, you're like, okay, this should look like this. And now, where's my husband? Where is he? Like, why isn't he coming through right now?
Yeah.
I'm pregnant. I have cravings. I'm psycho. I need my husband. So then your birth story, which we don't have to dig into the details because it was just like mine.
Yeah,
Traumatic.
It was very traumatic. I think that also had a big impact on Jake because I almost didn't make it, but Nash is here and he's healthy. But at the time, we didn't think he was healthy because he was born with like a special condition. And immediately we could tell that something was different and we didn't know what it was. The doctors didn't know what it was. So they had to send him to the NICU, which there was not a NICU at the hospital we were at. So they had to transport him 30 minutes away to a larger hospital. So that was very stressful.
Stress.
We had to leave the hospital early, which was hard on my body, which was rough. But we went up there and we were just trying to see what was wrong with him. We had no idea. Thankfully, he was okay and everything was good with him. But it was during that like first year after Nash was born that it was really hard because Jake was such a great father, like the best dad. He would always take care of Nash. He would help me out. He was so active. People would say, oh, like who's keeping your son whenever I was working? And I'm like, my husband? What do you mean? And they're like, oh, he watches the baby? I'm like, of course he watches the baby. He's the dad. But like, I guess that's not a norm for everybody. So I was very blessed to have him as such a good father. But as far as like a husband, he was kind of more in the back. It was less, we didn't communicate very often. We spent a lot of time in different rooms, which eventually turned into different worlds. And we just weren't communicating. It was very isolating. He wouldn't tell me what was wrong. So I was just kind of guessing like, oh, it's me. Am I doing something wrong? Like, are you not happy in this marriage? I had no idea that he was just like in his head to the point he couldn't even come out of it.
And I remember even coming to visit them and being like seeing you all and just hanging out with you in the living room. And I'm like, is Jake here? What's going on? But he was just in his room and it was just a small reflection of some stuff that you had been dealing with. And because high school Jake that I knew was super outgoing, crazy, like wanted to talk with you and hang out. I was like, this is so crazy that Jake's, just not around.
Wow.
And it was that internal mental battle of, what's going on. And of course, that's his story or whatever to tell. But your side of it was very isolating because you have no idea what's going on. And so, Nash was still a baby during this time? Or how old was he when it started really getting too overwhelming for you?
He was a baby whenever like the extent was going on, and Jake would slowly start telling me what was going on in little bits and pieces. And I was begging him. I was like, let's go to church. Like, let's really pray about this. You've got a lot of spiritual warfare going on. I think there's a lot in your head. Like, you need to get it out. And he would slowly come around, but it was very rarely that he would want to go to church. Like, he was just really down on himself. And it was probably...
And when Jake was a Christian as well, when you got married too.
Yeah, Jake's a Christian. I'm a Christian. But it was just like such an isolating season that he knew that he needed to reach out to the Lord, but he was doing it very privately, if at all. Like, he was just so stuck. And he knew what he needed to do, but he was just like holding on to his chains. And I remember just praying like, Lord, please let him come out of this, like heal him from this trauma. Because he just didn't forgive himself. He just felt unworthy. He felt unredeemable. He's like, I feel like God died for everyone else's sins, but not mine. I was like, that's not true. But that was just the spot he was in. Like, he was so deep in his own mind, he couldn't come out of it.
Yeah.
Which was hard for me because I'm like, I don't know how to help except for trying to be like, let's go to church. Let's lean into the Lord.
Yeah.
And at that time, that wasn't what he wanted to hear. So I think Nash was like a toddler whenever because he was born in 2017. It was probably around 2020.
Wow, yeah.
It,
Because that's around the time I came over too.
yeah, it was about 3 years of just like back and forth. We weren't communicating well. He kind of knew what he needed to do, but he was taking baby steps to get out of it. It was 2020. We started hanging out with some old friends, Jake's old friend from high school and his wife. And we didn't know it then, but the Lord was definitely working behind the scenes. Like, Jake needed community.
Mm-hmm.
We needed community because we were alone. Like, because at that time you still were living away.
Yeah.
Most of our friends who were still around weren't Christian.
Mm-hmm.
And plus, even if they were, like, Jake did not want to be around people.
Yeah.
He was like, no, I don't want to be around people. And he, for whatever reason,
And this was like 2020, right?
yeah, this is 2020, right when COVID started.
Yeah.
He was ready then. Whenever you're not allowed to be around anybody, he
The
was ready to.
lockdown's happened. He's like, get me out.
He's like, okay, I'm done.
He's like, now I can't actually leave my room. What?
Right. He's stuck there. He's like, oh, hold on a minute. You're going to tell me I have to stay? I'm not staying anymore. No, but it was because of those friendships, like, because that friend and his wife were living as a Christian. They were walking out what it looked like to follow Jesus in their life, in their marriage. And we hadn't seen that in like a young couple. We hadn't seen what a good, healthy marriage was because most of our friends weren't married yet. Like, it was really just us.
Mm-hmm.
And we weren't doing the best. We weren't the best examples,
Yeah.
obviously.
But it's hard when you don't have community, you don't have Christian friendships,
Yeah.
you're doing it on your own, you're very solo in your walk with the Lord, and you just feel like, it's hard to even know what to do because it's not modeled and you don't know until you look at scripture and you're like, yeah, this is what the Bible says, but how do I do that?
Right.
And so I love that part of your story too, because you all were isolated and together, and Jake didn't have strong Christian men talking to him. You didn't have strong, I mean, you had some Christian friends, but you didn't really have that strong church community to come around you and be like, hey, let's do this together. Let's like partner together and do this. And
Right.
so what was that like in 2020 and on after?
It was slow, but it was like that small light in the darkness where I could see that Jake was starting to come out and be himself again, which was so refreshing. I was like, okay, there he is. There's my husband.
Yeah.
And he could just see, like, okay, I want that. Like, I want that light and love. Like, I have Jesus, but I'm not leaning on Jesus. I'm not surrendering to him every day. And I think at one point he was like, okay, I've just got to do it. Because for the longest time, he would say, like, I feel like I'm bound in these chains. And I'm like, honey, you're holding these chains to your body. The
Yeah.
Lord has unlocked them. All you have to do is let go. Like,
Yeah.
you're holding yourself in bondage. And one day he was like, okay. And he just let him go. And I was like, this is really crazy.
Yeah.
And so I started seeing his old self. And like, he started healing and forgiving himself. And it was somewhere between 2020, 2021 that whenever he was healing and doing so well, you think that that would be our happily ever after, but it was not, because then I got really bitter.
Yeah. And I mean, also backing up a little bit, do you think that your two Christian friends that you finally like kind of came together and had a relationship with, do you feel like that was a huge factor playing for how Jake was able to kind of get out of that spot? Or
For sure. I think that we didn't know what community looked like. I mean, we knew high school friends. And if anything, we were the Christian community in high school. Like, we were the kids who were Christian, and we would talk about God and try to get people to come into their faith in high school. So then it was like, once we were adults alone, we didn't pour into anybody because we were struggling. And we didn't know at that time we needed to be poured into, because we were used to being the strong, the independent, like, just trust the Lord. But then it was like, whenever we didn't have anyone around, we just like stumbled, and we were like, what do we do?
And didn't you hit like a breaking point too with Jake where you were basically like, I'm not doing this anymore?
Yeah, that's the part. That's the part. It was around 2021, between 2021 and 2022, that he had really just had such restoration in himself, and he was starting to love me really well because he had finally learned how to love himself. And then I got really mad about it because I was bitter. I was resentful. I was like, how have you had this ability inside of you to love me so well and to be such a godly spiritual leader, but you've not shown me the past like 5 years.
Yeah.
Like we were 5 years into a marriage. I had prayed and begged God every night, like, Lord, please let my husband be healed. Please let him come out of this. Like, I know what he can do for the kingdom whenever he just goes all in. And then for him to do it like almost overnight. Like he was the perfect husband almost overnight. And I was like,
Yeah.
ain't no way that that's been in there the whole time. Like I was so angry and bitter. And I just remember being mean because every time that Jake would be loving and kind and patient, I would be more mad.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, Lord. And it's only because it wasn't on my expected timeline. Like I was living in answered prayers, but because it wasn't how I expected it, I was not happy. So I told Jake, I said, I want a divorce. And I didn't think I would ever come to that.
Yeah.
But we were at that point where I was prideful. Like my heart was full of stone. I was not happy. Jake had done his part of it. He had done the work. He was living for the Lord. Like I was so proud of him, but I was like, this is too little too late. Like you can take this love and I hope you go give it to a new wife that you can treat well because I have such a bad taste in my mouth now. Like we've been 5 years in.
And it's hard because it's almost when you're praying and praying and praying and seeking for God to do something and then you have that answered prayer, it's almost like, wow, this doesn't feel what I thought it was going to feel like. I thought that this would happen and then I would be completely full of love and excitement and joy. But it's hard to cast off resentment and anger and loneliness that you felt for years and years and years. And just because he had that, transformation overnight didn't take away from the fact that you literally were suffering for years silently too. Because one thing about Kayli is she grew up on and off with like a single mom too. And so she was modeled someone who had very strong faith and was very independent and a strong woman and a provider. And so seeing that in your mom was almost the catalyst to be like, you know what, I can also live like that.
Right, yeah.
But then getting to that point where you're like, but why be married if this is me living solo? And so I just think that it's interesting the way that God kind of used that to just be like, okay, it's time for you to now forgive and move forward, even though you had years of being faithful. So how did he take that conversation when you were finally like, okay, period, throwing in the towel?
Yeah, and that's how it went. I was so just rude, honestly. Like I was used to being an independent woman. It was hard for me anyway to say like, oh, I want a spiritual leader because where I was growing up with a single mom, like we were the men of the house because we didn't have any men in the house. So it's like, I can do this on my own, and that was such a place of pride. Like I'm proud of my mom because she did it when she had to, but I was just trying to do it my way. And the Lord, every single time that I said, I want to quit, I want to be done in those 5 years, to myself, not to my husband, but to the Lord, I was like, Lord, please let me leave. Like I'm not being fulfilled right now. And he would tell me no. So I stuck it out that whole time and I was like, okay, now can I go? And he would just always give me signs and he would just say so clearly like, no, Kaylee, you have to stay. Like this is for a purpose. Yeah. Now I can so clearly see it. Yeah. But when you're in the thick of it, it was hard. Yeah. He did not take it well. He was like, please, like, let's just give this time. Like I can be the husband you deserve. Let me prove it. And I was like, no, I don't want to do it. I'm so sorry. Like, it's honestly embarrassing how prideful I was in that moment. If you were outside on our porch with us, it would have been bad. Like, it wasn't good. I was mean. I told him, I was like, I don't love you anymore. I don't want to be with you anymore. Like, I feel nothing towards you. Like, I feel so empty toward him. And he cried. I cried. He's begging. He's like, please just give it more time. Like, and I didn't think about him and all of that because he's the one that had went through all this trauma. It just wasn't on my timeline that he got his healing. Oh. Both sides definitely felt hurt. And I should have been more understanding to his side. But I think he was like so excited to be restored in the Lord that he was like, okay, like, no, I can do it. Like he was just his golden retriever self. Like I can be the good husband that you deserve. Like I want to do that. And I was like, I don't want to. I finally agreed. I was like, okay, like I'll give you to the end of the summer. I gave him an ultimatum. It wasn't good. I shouldn't do that, but I did. because I was very prideful in that time. And I said, okay, like we'll give it to the end of the summer. And if my feelings haven't changed, then we seriously need to discuss divorce.
Yeah.
But again, he was so great. He was so good in that time. And every single time that he chose to love me, even whenever I was being mean, I just got more mad. I was so bitter. Like, it's crazy. And eventually, he kind of wore me down. And at the end of the summer, I still wasn't feeling great. Like, I was bitter and resentful, but I wasn't to the point where I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm ready to walk away. Like, I could see Jesus in Jake so clearly. And I was like, I'm going to wait it out. I'm not going to leave. But I definitely was 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I was on the fence. And he knew that. But he loved me well anyway. And that was probably, I think, 2022. So right after that, we started, we had been going to church with that couple and kind of building a community, which has helped him a lot. Like, we had community. He was building community.
So there was more than just you that he was dependent on.
Right.
Like, he had these relationships where he was coming in and having accountability and friendships and living out what it says in scripture. And so that kind of led into community. And then, which I think I want to say I moved back around this time too, right?
Yeah, it was right around that time we had been going to that church. And like, Jake was taking leadership positions. He was, teaching Sunday school. Like, he was doing a lot. He was working with the kids. And he was doing so well. I didn't like that because I was bitter. But around that time, we kind of did start moving into that, like, healing. And every day I would just say, Lord, like, chip away at this heart of stone. Like, make me love and support my husband because you've answered this prayer. I'm standing in the way of my own blessing right now. And slowly he did. We started going to the marriage life group that you and Emmanuel were hosting. And I never thought he would go. But Jake was already like, the Lord had planted a seed before you asked us, because he was like, I want to help marriages. I want to help broken marriages. Even though ours wasn't fully healed at that point, he was just on fire. And I was like, okay, like, if you want to go, we'll go. I didn't think he would, but he did. And I think there, talking about everything we had went through for the first time, like, publicly, from start to finish, I was like, wow. Like, I could self-reflect and see that.
Was this 23?
Yeah, this was
2023.
Yeah.
So like 2 years ago then.
Yeah, end of 2022, I think, is when we started. Yeah, it was the later half of 22 into 23. It was like cold outside.
So. I'm so bad at remembering my timeline of when I moved places. And
I think you'd been back for a while, but before we started coming.
Yes, because I remember we had hung out a few times, and then I just kind of got to the point where I was like, okay, we were really talked into doing the marriage life group. And so I was just thinking of my best Christian friends. I was like, why aren't Kayli and Jake here? And so eventually we did get you in the door. And that was really cool too, to see, because there for a while it was just basically 6 of us. It was our youth pastor, his wife, Emmanuel, and I, and then you and Jake, because there was like no young and married community, nothing like 20 something with kids. We just didn't have a community at all of people who were married and wanted to seek the Lord and live it out. And, which is just a whole other story, but it was really cool what God did whenever you all said yes to continue going. Cause I'd say it was about 3 months of just us 6 really going all in and spending time together and just really asking God to bring more people into our space so that God could transform their marriages and all the things. And so during life group, what was the biggest thing for you kind of that you were taking away during that period of just us 6 being together?
I remember any time that I would talk about what we had been through, I would just start bawling. I was like, I have not healed. I can't even speak on it without crying at this point. And so I was like, okay, I know this is still bothering me. I know this is a lot of pent up anger. And just somewhere in that time of being able to talk about it and seeing like the fruits of his labor, of being faithful, Jake doing the things and walking the walk and talking the talk. And I was very proud of him. And it was slow, but I was like, wow, like, I didn't think that I would ever want a spiritual leader. And I got one.
What does this look like? What's going on?
Literally had no idea what it looked like. I didn't have any fatherly figures besides my grandpa. And it was crazy. I was like, okay, this is doing something. And I could see Jesus through it all. I was like, okay, this is what we've been asking for. Like, I've asked for this. Jake has done the work. We have put, at this point, I think like 6.5 years into our marriage. And I was like, Lord, we've put in this long. Like, I know that you're not ready to quit yet because you've never let me quit.
Yeah.
I have been here standing in the gap this long. And I didn't know if he was going to ever come and change.
Right,
I didn't know if anything would come of it. But the Lord moved. And I was just watching it happen. So eventually my heart was softened. And I just started to fall in love with who Jake was as a grown-up. Like, I was like, wow, what a guy.
Yeah, literally. It was crazy because we would have these life group sessions where you're like, I'm still bitter, I'm still angry, I'm still frustrated, and walking in that season with you and then watching you fall in love with your husband again, it was like, whoa.
It was
I don't
whoa.
even think you ever loved him this much. I was like, wow, okay. And then, having the groups, and then you all started bringing in new couples, and then we started inviting more couples. And then I want to say, like, our group went from us 3 to, 6 or 7 couples after that. And Morgan and Rodney were also a part of that, which is really cool. And Sierra and her husband, Matt, which is so crazy. But it really started with us 6 being faithful and showing up, even when our marriages were messy. And I mean, all of our marriages were messy and life was tough. And I already in my brain, I'm like, Brad's going to comment and be like, my marriage was not messy. We were just hanging
He's
out.
like, we're perfect.
Literally. Maybe one day
we were there to support you all.
We need to have the greens on the podcast.
Yes, please. Yeah, no.
In my head, I was like, yeah, I can already see that literally in the comment section.
Yeah, no, for real.
But we were hanging out with some threads, okay?
It's true.
And then after live group, we had new couples coming in. Then Jake really started mentoring those couples, and we moved. And so I remember being like, okay, you're the only people.
Yeah.
Pass the baton. Our youth pastor clearly can't do it because he's our youth pastor. There's too much going on.
Yeah.
You all are going to be the leaders. And Jake was like, we're never doing that. We're not doing that. I'm not qualified. We're not doing that. And I literally was like, but you are. You don't have an option. Who else is going to do it? Do you want this group to die? Do you want no one's marriages to be successful? What are you doing? And then you were like, whatever the Lord wants. And then I literally just called our pastor and was like, so, the Gregories are going to lead the group next. I don't even know if they had said yes. I basically was just like, here's the baton, run.
You're voluntold. Here's your new job.
And then we skipped down for about a year.
It's true. It's true. You guys left and we didn't know what we were going to do. We were just leaning on the Lord. It was around that time, though, that the Lord really forged us in the fire and truly restored our marriage. Nothing more than helping other people, because every time we would talk about it, we hadn't talked about it while we were going through it. It was on our way out that we were finally like, there's so much power in telling your testimony, and there's so much power in talking about your trauma and your healing and what you've been through, because every time Jake would talk about it, someone would be like, wow, I really needed that. I've been through that. That's so crazy. I can relate. I would never think to tell anybody that. Thank you for speaking on it.
Yeah.
So it was every time we didn't want to get uncomfortable, the Lord made us uncomfortable, but then he moved.
Yeah.
And that's all we did that whole year. We just kept showing up, and we had to host at our house and lead. And we had a little house. People just kept showing up.
Little house, though.
And I was like, okay, we're just going to keep doing it. And watching my husband work for the Lord, I just fell in love.
You're wow, this is hot. Okay, God.
Yeah, I'm look at him. Oh my gosh.
Look at my Boaz. Which actually, okay, pause. That is so disgusting. Okay, it's not disgusting. Sorry. Okay, I think that was blasphemy for a second.
I said, hold on a minute.
Let me
back it up.
Holy Spirit said probably not. But
rewind.
But did you know that Ruth and Boaz was super old?
Right. Yeah.
My whole life of a Christian 7 years, 8 years, I was like, oh, Ruth and Boaz, the most beautiful love story. And I didn't even realize that dude's
ancient.
Could be her grandpa.
You're Boaz is probably really
attractive.
Here's
a little bit of wheat and barley go to your, and then she's like at his feet, hey, let's get married. Do you want to protect me? And he's like, a beautiful woman like you could have any man, and you're coming to Pops? I got you.
Pops
Let's
is
figure this out.
crazy. Sure.
So maybe not your Boaz. What's another? I don't know. Drop in the comments whatever you guys think another great illustration is, because right now I'm just thinking about Grandpa Boaz. But
No, yeah, but it was really wasn't Boaz,
How do we bounce
but
back from that?
yeah. Hold on, let me collect my thoughts. No, it was just really cool.
Give
Like
me
I
all your
was,
barley and wheat, baby.
yeah, we were just falling in love, which we had to relearn how to love each other because we honestly never knew in the beginning. Like we were kids trying to figure it all out
100%.
and doing it on our own. And the minute that we really were like, Lord, we need you, He sent us a community.
Yes, which was so cool. And that was all the past year. And then I moved back this summer, and it's the fall now.
Yeah, it's the fall.
Thank you, Jesus, for the fall. I'm so
Literally.
happy it's the fall. But coming back home and seeing everything you all have done, the community you all have created, like it's insane. And just watching God work in you and in Jake and the marriage life group, watching you all lead, I'm like, oh, so glad I threw that baton at you and hit you in the head and made you do it, because
It's
it was so exciting. It really wasn't me, it was Jesus. But he's like, I know Kayla's a little crazy and she will make you do something. So let's use that spiritual gift.
You're always doing this. You threw me to Jake in the beginning. Now you're like, you're fixing the marriage. Here we go.
Morgan's like, you harassed me to coming to life group. Listen, I'm sorry, guys. I can't help it.
You just move when the Lord tells you to
I'm just
move.
fishing.
It's true.
You see what he did there with the
Look at you go,
disciples?
Peter.
Literally.
No.
Dude, I haven't been fishing in a long time. Those worms used to freak me out. And then I was like, is this poop or am I killing the worm?
Definitely were.
Yeah, it's actually insane to think about. I don't know how I've never been hunting, but okay, reel it in.
Reel it in.
So
now we're in 2025,
yes.
and the Lord has completely restored our marriage.
Yes,
Like-
1000%.
Like, love,
Love.
love, love. We're in love. And it's just fun because I didn't think I'd ever have that.
Yeah.
Like, I remember looking back at 2020 and seeing our two friends that He first brought, our smallest community, and seeing how in love they were. And we both looked at that marriage and were like, we want to be in love like that, but we didn't know how.
Yeah.
And now we get to do it, and it's just so fulfilling. And our marriage is not perfect. It is not perfect. We still, fight. We're normal. We're human. We're flawed. But even though it's not perfect, it's definitely permanent now.
Yes.
And
Tagline: perfect but permanent. Wait, perfect not permanent. Dang, I really worked on this.
permanent,
I
not
really
perfect.
tried to put that in my mind when we talked about it earlier. I was like, oh, that's going to be a great setup. Morgan usually does the taglines.
It's okay.
We're perfect. Wait.
We're-
See, just forget it. Move
Just
on.
forget it.
We don't edit
We're not
things, so-
perfect. We're permanent.
Yes, we're not perfect. We're permanent. We're not perfect Christians, and we're not perfect podcasters. That's what she said.
Yeah, I like
almost
it.
messed that up real big.
No, you're doing great.
So, I mean, honestly, though, that's where you guys are now, and I love it. I love to see my friends in love. It makes me so happy.
Me too.
And I guess I kind of want, I mean, we'll start wrapping up in a second, but we talked about this on the front porch earlier when she was doing my hair. And we talked about how sometimes people can look at these relationships and say, oh my gosh, I can just wait and pray and consistently, not even pray, I'll just wait on this person to change. And we just wanted to make it very clear that sometimes, there's a difference between worldly relationships and marriages and then Christian marriages. And in Christian marriages, you're praying and you're seeking God and you're asking Him for clarity, and He is the one that's leading your decisions, not yourself. And so, because I remember thinking, how do we help people understand the difference between those things? And so for you, kind of what would you share on like a last note of, hey, this is the distinction between seeking God in a hardship during, a hard time as a Christian versus not?
Yeah, I think because I've had multiple marriages, like wives come to me and say, how did you do it? Like, should I stay? Should I go? And I think everyone's story is different, but throughout our whole marriage, there were times I wanted to quit. There were times I was like, because I know that I cannot change Jake. Like, you cannot change your spouse. You cannot change your husband, your wife. Like, the Lord has to do all of that. So I think if the Lord had been telling me, hey, yeah, it's time to go, and I was just being my own self in the way and saying, no, like, I'm going to stick it out because I don't want a divorce. Like, that's so shameful or whatever. Like, that would have been worse. I think letting the Lord guide and just saying, okay, Lord, like, I do want to leave. And he was always saying, like, no. And my flesh wanted to go. I was like, but I'm not happy. And the Lord's like, I didn't call you to be happy. I called you to be faithful, and I called you to serve, and I called you to do what I'm asking you to do. And you've got to trust that I've got a greater plan. And what you think you want may not be what you actually are going to need in the long term.
And I think a lot of people think that when you follow Jesus, it's just about happiness, and in reality, it's about your holiness. And so sometimes you go through seasons where you're not happy, but God's crafting and refining you to be more holy, to be more like him, and to reflect him. And I always tell people, like, you're called to be holy, not called to be happy. But the Lord gives you the gift of happiness once you go through that refinement. And I don't think God calls us to be miserable and follow him. That's definitely not it. But I love that just in that season, you were like, I'm choosing holiness, and I'm going to fight for holiness. And in that season, holiness looked like seeking God for a yes or a go.
Yeah.
Like, what do we do? And
Literally.
so I love that you share a lot about that, because that is so important for people to recognize. You were submitting to the Lord, then submitting to your husband. And that is what Christian marriage submission is. It's submitting to the Lord. And when your husband is following the Lord and filled with the Holy Spirit, you submit to him because it's unto the Lord. So I just love that. And now seeing your submission to him now, and I know that our culture hates that word, but when you know the actual meaning behind it, seeing you submit and love your husband now, it's like that is really what marriage is supposed to look like.
And it's so easy to do it whenever your husband is following the Lord. Like, I wouldn't call anyone to just submit to their husband if they're not first submitting to the Lord themselves. Like, when Jake, he was a Christian, but he wasn't leading our family in that time. So it would have been easy for me to say, oh, I'm going to be the spiritual leader. Like, I'll just step up and I'll handle it. And in some instances, I had to, but I would always say, okay, Lord, like, I want Jake to be the spiritual leader, or I'm going to hit the road.
Yeah.
And now seeing Jake step into that role of spiritual leader, it's so easy to submit to him because he does it so well. And he is following the Lord. So it's easy to trust him whenever I know who he is going to for help and who he's saying, like, I'm following the Lord's will. Okay, great. That's all I want. So if you're following him and I'm following him, like, we're doing good.
So it really releases so much of a burden. Like, you are released of the burden that you were never meant to carry. And so then you can, like, live carefree. Like, you got to get to the gates, honey, and tell the Lord. Like, you got to tell the Lord how you led me and how well you listened to him. And so I always say, you know, whenever Emmanuel's trying to make big decisions, I'm like, you're the leader. And so
this is on you, buddy.
I'm going to follow you, and I'm going to pray and get confirmation from the Lord. But to be honest, I don't know when you get to those gates.
This is on you. This family is on your back.
Literally.
Yeah.
And I'm just called to love it and respect you. So, but yeah, guys, I am so happy that you came on and shared. It makes me happy. And I genuinely believe that your story can encourage and inspire and help Christian wives to understand what that role looks like. So if you all know of someone who might be struggling in this season, or if this is for you, but just like share this podcast with them. And I think that that's why we're doing this whole thing, is so that it can be encouraging, that people can hear a conversation and a truth about marriage and relationships and be like, okay, this is how I feel. This is where I'm going. And your marriage has been such an encouragement to me so many times when, like, even Emmanuel and I have struggled through some things. And so I'm just happy you could come on.
Thanks. And I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to give a praise report that the Lord can restore a marriage.
But yeah, guys, so we are going to go ahead and close this up, but stay tuned for what's coming soon. Morgan and I have some fun stuff cooking up for y'all. We are going to have a time where you all are submitting some stories and some fun stuff. So we're just going to be yapping. And we can't wait to hear the highs and the lows of some funny stories and submissions. So I honestly don't think this will be the last time that you're here at this podcast, but for the first time, you knocked that out of the park. All right, guys. Well, we will see you later, and thanks for tuning in. See ya. Peace.